Welcome my subscribers in Texas. Last week was very quiet. Most of the state didn't receive any rain at all. It looks like there'll be a little bit more rain this week, and then the following week once again looks dry. So overall, the story across the state of Texas as well as Oklahoma looks like continued dry weather. Stay tuned to the Weekly Water Outlook for more information. Let's start off today's briefing by taking a look at where the rain fell over the last week. And what we see here is very little rain whatsoever. Matter of fact, the only significant rain fell over the far southeast and east coastal parts of the state. No rain whatsoever over almost all of Oklahoma and most, if not all, of northern and central parts of Texas. As you might suspect, look at this broad area of rainfall that's 25% or less of normal. And matter of fact, it didn't rain at all, so that'd be 0% of normal. Only a very small pocket of rainfall above normal, that's that area in blue along the southeast and east coastal part of Texas. So the big story last week, no rain, dry, well below normal precipitation. If we look at the number of days since a rain day, we see in that region it's been at least 15 days, some areas a little bit less, but we see a distinction between Oklahoma and definitely north and central Texas versus more frequent rain over the southeast part of the state. I thought I'd look at some rainfall graphics around a couple spots in Texas since the beginning of September through the current date. And what we see here is for San Antonio here, this is 2 inches of rain. And the rain events have been very infrequent. First of all, there's been very few rain events. There's only been 2 rain events over this period. Both of them have brought significant rain. So even though there's been 2 inches of rain for both these in San Antonio, I think the story is over this period from September 1st to current, really there's only been these 2 rain events during that. Now Dallas, it's even been more difficult. We're looking at only 1 rain event. I guess we could call this one as well, but the magnitudes are less. This is a little bit over 1 inch of rain right here. This is a little bit under 1 inch of rain, but again, over a period of September 1st through current, both these locations, only 2 significant rain events throughout that period. Now, the drought monitor was updated last week for Texas, and what we see here from D0 to D4, 82%, almost 83% of the state has some degree of drought. The more significant drought, the D2 to D4, 30%, and the red there is indicating the more significant drought of extreme or exceptional, about 15 or 16%. So we have droughty type conditions over the entire state, and we're getting these pockets of significant drought over parts of the far north and also the far south part of the state. If we look at Oklahoma, it's actually quite a bit worse. The red, or the extreme or exceptional drought, is much more significant, with 66.75% of the state impacted by that. Now, it has decreased a little bit from last week where it was 80%, but I think the bigger picture is looking from 3 months ago, it was only 15%. So while there's been some improvement maybe over the last week, definitely there's been a significant worsening of the drought over the last 3 months. I thought I'd take a look at the tropics because there is one system out there worth keeping an eye on. It's in the Caribbean. By the way, temperatures in the Caribbean are above normal, and there is the possibility of development in that area during the latter part of the very late part of the hurricane season. Unfortunately for Texas, I guess you could say, because I think some tropical moisture from a manageable perspective would be good or helpful. But right now it looks like not much chance it's going to move in that area. I think it's either going to move west initially or perhaps between these 2 areas of high pressure and perhaps maybe even affect parts of the northeast U.S. late at the end of next week, just a possibility. But for Texas, that blocking high is going to pretty much hold everything away from the area, and I don't think we need to be concerned with this tropical system reaching the area. Now, the last couple briefings, you might have noticed that I said the jet stream is pretty active. We're seeing some changes throughout the week, whereas earlier in October and in September, not much change at all. And this week, what we're going to have is we're going to start out the week with the jet stream blowing well to the north, and we're going to end up the week with an area of low pressure to the west. and so we're going to see some variation over the week. And what that's going to do is it's going to keep areas of dry air both to the west and to the east of Texas, Oklahoma. And being in the middle, you could get just enough energy for one frontal passage and some light precipitation. It's not going to be much. It's not going to do much change one way or the other, but at least there could be some light precipitation compared to last week where there was none. Now, one of the reasons we haven't been getting a whole lot is that with the jet stream energy to the north, the storm tracks have been well to the north, and those are those red dots. So the storm tracks have been well to the north. As we switch from October into November, I would expect these storm tracks to be further south and begin to get a little bit increase in frequency of precipitation. I don't see that yet, but this does show you pretty clearly why the Pacific Northwest and the Great Lakes have been getting some rainfall, and everywhere over the south, very little rainfall. Now, having said that, this is a raw model output for the next couple of weeks, and it doesn't really look like there's going to be any big change one way or the other for Texas. What we see here in week 1, this is week 1 here, and what we do see is relatively light amounts of rain. Could be a bit more in the northeast part of Oklahoma, but Texas, for the most part, light amounts of rainfall. I said off to the west and off to the east, no rain whatsoever, but there is the possibility of some light rain this week as this front goes through. Week 2, very little rain. Matter of fact, the country looks amazingly dry, other than this is a system I was telling you we might need to keep an eye on in the northeast U.S. Very quiet during week 2. I wouldn't get too carried away with this rain this week. It looks pretty light, but I think the overall story with both week 1 and week 2 is going to be below normal rainfall. So from a trend alert, I have a trend alert out for last week for Texas. I think it's very light distinction here between to the west and to the east, but I do think there's enough light rain, so I will expect to see some over the state this week. But pretty much the whole southern U.S., it looks pretty darn below normal rainfall for at least the end of October into early November. So the takeaway points for this week's briefing for Texas: the atmospheric energy in the jet stream will again remain to the north. As it shifts from Boeing to the north and we get a little low pressure, one front should be passing through that will produce light amount of rainfall. That light amount of rainfall, this precipitation of below normal, looks like it'll continue until further notice. Overall, another quiet week across the state. I will be issuing updates throughout the week on the situation, and a newsletter will be issued in early November, so I appreciate you listening, and keep tuned for more information. Thank you.